Okay, this is a crown that I had, or we're gonna show you how this technology is used to make a crown that I had done recently. When I came into the office, the first thing I'd had some broken dental work, and the first thing that the doctor did was actually use Play-Doh in my mouth to model a new tooth, and then they sprayed it with a kind of powder that's the same stuff that it makes the white M on an M&M. And so they got a model of what they roughly wanted the end tooth to look like. Then they went to work on my molar itself to prepare it to receive the crown, and they took a picture of that, and that's what we see here. This is my molar as prepared to receive the crown. So Dr. Rashke, why don't you tell us what happens then?
Okay, so basically we're telling the computer that we want to copy the information that we had given it earlier. And the first thing, so now we are looking at this tooth as it has been prepped. And now we're going to build this up, which looks like nothing to anyone but a dentist. And we're now
actually, I think I've seen it in orbit around Jupiter, but you know.
Probably something very similar. So what we're going to do now is we're going to tell the computer first where the crown needs to begin. I'm quickly going to get the computer out of a manual mode here by drawing a blue line. And now I'm going to go in and we're going to copy where this tooth needs to, where the crown needs to begin. And sometimes this is below the gum tissue when it's needed, and sometimes this is above the gum tissue. And so the computer doesn't care where it needs to go. It just cares that we give it a nice line, and the computer will do the rest for us. Okay. So now we're very happy with where our line is, and now we're going to tell the computer to go forward. And it's now asking us if we like the path of insertion, and we do, so we're going to go forward. And now it's showing us the outline of the pre-op tooth, the tooth that the patient came in with.
Right, so this was the picture you took of the tooth with the Play-Doh and
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so
and
now
it's going to compare the two and subtract the difference to figure out what kind of crown it needs.
Exactly correct. So now what I'm doing now is I'm creating this pink line, and this pink line is the general shape of the outside of the tooth. And now we have a green line here, which is considered a copy line. So it's going to copy the information within the green line exactly. You notice that I just shaved off a small portion of it, and that's because I don't want to copy some of the Play-Doh information. And so now the computer is giving me a tooth. And we can see that it goes well below the gum tissue in some respects. And in other respects, we can see the blue line, and it's well above the gum tissue. Great. And at this point, it doesn't really much look like a tooth, at least it doesn't to me, but we're going to change that. So now this yellow area just tells me how big of an area am I going to be adjusting at once. And now what you're seeing in front of your eyes is that I'm smoothing the tooth off. You notice that it looks like it's enveloping a portion of this other tooth, which just basically means that we haven't going into it too much, and we're going to be solving that issue as well right now. So again, I'm just reshaping the tooth a little bit here, getting rid of any marks that we do not like, smoothing it out. Okay, and in this particular area, I'm still a little bit too much into the next tooth. So we trimmed it away, we tilted on its side here, and now this red contact area tells us that we're touching too much. So I'm going to highlight this half of the tooth, and we're going to move all of it in.
You're shrinking away the surface of the tooth.
Not the whole tooth,
but just that
just
side.
the portion.
Yeah.
And if you notice now, it looks like we have a very nice contact. Still a little heavy, but we'll adjust that in the final stages. And in fact, we're going to be coming here and just adding in just a little bit, squaring off that tooth to make sure that we don't get a food impaction area that will lead to periodontal disease.
The idea is you want to leave a little leeway so that you can cut away, because if you leave too little tooth there, too little crown, you have to remake the whole thing.
That's right.
It's
Exactly.
easier to leave a little bit and adjust it.
Yeah, and that's up to the individual dentist. I prefer to do the last little bit of adjusting in between the teeth on my own. That's just a personal preference. Okay, so now here we have a very nice crown, with the exception of we don't have a lot of anatomy. So we're still very flat, and I've yet to see a tooth that doesn't have that much anatomy in it. So what we're going to do now is where those years of molding teeth come into practice. And we're going to come in here and we're going to drop in where anatomy should be.
By anatomy, you mean shaping of the surface of the tooth where it impacts the tooth above it and so forth. And
Exactly.
the food, yeah.
And it just kind of, a natural molar like this will have anywhere between 4 and 5 cusps. And so we want to just make it look like it has those 4 or 5 cusps. And sometimes we can make greater changes, but before this whole process started, we took a look at the bite to see where we could adjust it and where we could not adjust it. And so we can't just add giant cusps because they look good, because it doesn't function. And function is it would hit the upper tooth without giving us, and again,
And you're smoothing it
I'm
out
just
now.
smoothing it out so it doesn't look so much like lines that we've drawn. And now you can see when we turn it on end that all of a sudden we have these functional cusps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool.
And one last time we're going to go in, and this tells us that we have more than 100 microns of penetration into the next tooth, which is just a little bit much. And so we're just going to soften that a little bit. And then I'm going to put back the model, take away my color, and I think that we have a beautiful tooth.
Cool. Now you can also show the. Can you show the underside of the tooth?
I can. Let's actually go to an edit property, and this makes my tooth see-through.
Uh-huh.
And so here you can actually see how much porcelain I'm adding in this tooth,
Uh-huh.
and which is quite a bit. We did a root canal in this tooth.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see we're missing quite a bit of the tooth structure. That's not always what we do or how much we take away. That's determined by what's happening with the tooth.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, I was really fascinated to encounter this technology, and I think it's neat. It's always cool to see technology making medicine easier in these ways. And I know I'd much rather have a single visit to get some dental work taken care of than have to come back in 2 weeks and get something from a lab and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I have to tell you that I'm amazed with it, and I get to use it every day. And I've been using the machine for about 4 years now, and just love it every day.
Well, Dr. Reschke, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.